Hello to everybody watching. I know I sound really annoying, so I'm just going to get into the video. I'm going to share the different resources that I used when I was preparing to take the JLPT N5, which I took back in 2022. I will be taking the N4 on 3 days from now, on Sunday, so I will update everybody with how I did, but this is about how I passed the N5 and the resources that I used. As you can see, I did pass, even though I didn't pass very well. Hopefully I'll do better on Sunday on the N4, but regardless, I'm gonna get on to the video. The first resource that I used was this website called Jisho, which means dictionary in Japanese. So pretty much you can look up any word and it'll tell you what it means. You can look up different kanji. It also explains to you how to draw it. So let's say you want to look up how to write this kanji. As you can see where I circled in blue on the bottom of the picture, they have the stroke order and they explain in what order you're supposed to draw the different lines. And then right above that, if you press the little play button, they have a video of somebody drawing it. So whether you're more of a visual learner or not, it'll tell you exactly how to draw the stroke order so you can learn how to write the kanji. And of course, you can also just look up words. So if, let's say you're watching Samurai Champloo, as I once was, and you hear them say the word himawari, and you're like, I wonder what that means. So you look it up and you can see that it means sunflower. So that's one thing that I like to do a lot of times if I'm watching an anime or what have you, and I hear a word and I'm like, what does that mean? I'll go and I'll look it up on Jisho, and then I might write it down, and that's one way that I learn new vocabulary words. The next resource that I have is this website called Kanshudo. They have a whole bunch of different stuff on here, which is great for learning. However, I have not used it a lot. The main thing that I wanted to share is this thing they have called the Daily Kanji. Now, I blurred out my email here, but this is a screenshot of an email that I received. You can set up on the Kanshudo website that they will send you an email with one kanji every day, and it'll say the reading and the meaning of it. So let's say you're wondering, there's so much kanji to learn, where do I start? You can really just start with one a day, and they'll send them to you from, the more easier and the more frequent ones that you'll need to know. And then as it goes on, there'll be the more challenging ones that you don't need as often. So what I would do is I would get one of these, I would get my email, I'd open it, I'd, have the kanji, and then I'd look up the stroke order on Jisho so that I could learn how to write it. And then here I'd have the meaning and the readings, which you can also get from Jisho. But this was a great way to, even just one kanji a day, slowly but surely you can learn how to write kanji. And this is just another example of one of the daily kanji emails, just so everybody can see what it looks like. Now, the third resource that I have to share is just watching anime. But there's definitely more to it than that. For example, when you hear about people learning languages, they'll say, oh, I just watched a TV show in that language. A lot of people say they learned English from watching the TV show Friends, but I cannot understand how you can just learn a language just watching the TV show, because there's a lot of words, it's fast-paced, so on and so forth. So I would recommend watching more children's shows, but even so, it's like watching a show such as, there's children that watch Demon Slayer, but the dialogue is more fast-paced. This show I really want to recommend because it's very slow. It's not very fast. It'll be like one sentence, then there'll be a pause, then there'll be another sentence. The words are easier. So this is just a screenshot of this TV show Bananya, which I highly recommend. For example, here it says, and Bananya's dream is ... So when I see that on the screen, it's probably going to say the word yume for dream. And then I'll hear that and I'll be like, okay, one of these words, yume, has to be one of these words, and it's not going to be bananya, so it's probably dream. And then I would look up the word yume and I would learn, oh, that means dream. So that's kind of how I would do it. Very great show for that because the vocabulary is much easier and it's much slower paced show. The next resource that I have is watching the anime openings and endings. Specifically, or I guess I should say, especially if it has the lyrics in Japanese on the bottom. Because now when I would watch an anime and the ending or the opening plays multiple times before it changes to a new one, there's certain words that I would see a lot. So for example, this is from Naruto Shippuden. As you can see, I circled in blue where it says watashi. I saw that a lot, and every single time I saw that on the screen, they would be saying watashi. So then I'm like, okay, that must be read as watashi. So that's kind of how I would familiarize myself with just the shapes of the kanji before I learned how to write them. Now, the great thing with the show like Naruto is it has a lot of openings and endings. So you go on to Crunchyroll Deutschland and you look up a playlist of all the openings and endings, and you can just go through and see all the different songs and the words. So this is just another example from Naruto Shippuden. Love this ending with Hinata called Jitensha. Now, as you can see, it says Jitensha 5 times in a row. So after a while, you kind of get the feeling, okay, this word must be Jitensha. So then you look it up on Jisho and, you know, learn how to write the characters, so on and so forth. That's another way that I would learn words. My last resource that I have is just listening to Japanese music, but not just listening to it and then also looking up the lyrics. Now, one of the bands that the first Japanese band that I really got into was Babymetal. Now, this is just an example for Babymetal. This is a blog where they post the lyrics of Babymetal songs. Now, here you can see it just has the English translation, but then you go further down and they explain everything. So, for example, they explain that even though she says Ichigo, it's not Ichigo as in strawberry, it's Ichigo as in Ichi 1 and then 5 go, because she's 15. Now, if we had just looked up Ichigo into Google Translate, we would have been kind of confused as to how they got 15 instead of strawberry, but here we have somebody that explains all of that to us. Then you go further down and they have it in Romaji and then the English translation, so you can see each individual line, how it's translated. So this only works for Babymetal, but if you can find different websites like this that explain the lyrics, that would be a great way to learn what they're saying. And then the next time you listen to the song, you can pick out words that you remember and it'll, reinforce your memory. It's better, or easier, I guess I should say, to do with bands that are bigger, because then it's easier to find a translation of it. But regardless, this is the last resource that I used. So thank you to everybody for watching the video, and anybody taking the JLPT this Sunday. I hope you do well. I hope I do well in the N4, but yeah, ganbatte, I guess.